following cells are involved in the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone mechanism, which you might also see sometimes as the RAAS system, so renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. So just to review what this is, the RAAS system, or the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone mechanism, is that it's a system of hormones that helps to regulate blood pressure by maintaining fluid balance within the body. So this fluid balance and this blood pressure control, that's the main function. So BP/fluid. And as an aside, something that you might be familiar with just from hearing about it that actually could tell you a lot about the RAAS system, you may have heard about a medication known as an ACE inhibitor. So just as an aside, ACE inhibitor means that you're preventing ACE, which is that conversion from angiotensin, this angiotensinogen 1, to another mechanism called Ang2, and by doing so, you are blocking this whole system, and therefore you are reducing blood pressure. So this is a medication used to control blood pressure. So just as a helpful tidbit to help you remember what the RAAS system is. But just to further discuss, this system is not just for reducing blood pressure, it also could help raise it back in situations where it drops too low, and this is done by fluid balance with the kidneys. So it's a mechanism that is used between blood vessels and the kidney. So this question is asking specifically about the RAAS system. Which of the following cells are involved in the RAAS system? So we have the mesangial cells, the glomerular cells, the cells of the proximal convoluted tubule, or the endothelium. So we want to know which of these are involved in this system. So going through the choices, option A is the mesangial cells. And these cells, they support the glomerular capillaries and they help to regulate filtration, but they're not directly related to the RAAS system. This is more for that process with the kidneys in terms of excreting fluids. So the kidneys are involved in blood pressure control and in excretion of fluid. So in the process of excreting fluid, it could affect blood pressure, but it's not considered directly related to this RAAS system, and therefore we could eliminate option A. Now, option B is the juxtaglomerular cells. Now, these cells, they are specialized cells that are located on the walls of the afferent arterioles, which are located in the kidneys near the glomerulus. And in this process, they produce renin, which relates to the discussion that we were having about how sometimes this process could also raise blood pressure when it needs to be increased in certain situations when it drops too low. And in fact, the juxtaglomerular cells producing renin, it helps with, going back to when we were talking about ACE inhibitors, this process of AND1 to AND2. So this is a process that helps to increase blood pressure, and that is in fact part of this RAAS system. So when we're talking about ACE inhibitors preventing the RAAS system, renin is something that directly does allow the RAAS system to occur, and allowing the RAAS system to do its processes is what leads to this end result of increasing blood pressure, because sometimes we do want to increase blood pressure in cases where it's too low. We don't want it to plummet out too low either. And therefore, option B, the juxtaglomerular cells, would be the correct answer because it's related to this renin, which is involved in the RAAS system. Let's just take a look at the other choices here. Option C are the cells of the proximal convoluted tubule. And similar to what we were discussing about the mesangial cells, the role of the cells of the proximal convoluted tubule are involved in the reabsorption of sodium in water. So it has to do with fluid excretion processes and filtering, not with this RAAS system directly. So we could eliminate option C. Option D is the endothelium, and endothelial cells, they produce angiotensin converting enzyme, this ACE that we were talking about. So it does convert angiotensin 1 to 2, but they're not the primary initiators of RAAS. That kind of comes later down in the system. So therefore, the juxtaglomerular cells would be a better choice, option B over option C. So we could eliminate option D. So option B, the juxtaglomerular cells, would be the correct answer here.